Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the action science fiction film, John Carter. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We post multiple times daily. Spoilers ahead. In the busy streets of New York City in 1881, a man manages to avoid another. He eventually walks into a building while appearing to be anxious. He spends more money inside to send an express telegraph. A young man gets a telegram from his uncle asking him to act quickly to save him. The young guy walks to the vast estate of his late uncle, John Carter, where a lawyer informs him that John Carter passed away suddenly and left the young man with everything. The young Edgar Rice Burroughs, Darryl Sabara, is passed an old journal by the man. After the attorney has left, the young man starts reading. After the American Civil War, the narrative starts in Arizona. Gold prospecting is being done by John Carter, Taylor Kitsch, a decorated military captain in the Confederate Army. It appears that the locals don't like him. Carter is under pressure to join the cavalry under Colonel Powell, Bryan Cranston. After many unsuccessful escape attempts due to Carter's refusal to comply, he fools a cell guard, knocks him out, and rides Colonel Powell's horse out of Fort Grant. Powell and the other cavalrymen start to pursue Carter, but they are forced to stop when they notice that Carter has met up with an Apache war band on horses. The tension is heightened by the fact that both sides are armed and cautious. Soon there is a shooting. Carter decides to flee, but Colonel Powell is shot, so Carter goes back to get the wounded guy. They locate a small cave after making their way into a box canyon. When the Apaches see something on the rock above the cave, they quickly retreat. Carter wanders back to where the Apache had been and finds the spider symbol etched into the rock face. Powell is left near the entrance as he investigates further inside the cave. Carter discovers a strangely marked chamber there with gold-lined walls and ceiling. Powell almost misses the man who appears behind him because he is so entranced, missing it entirely. The stranger is a balding man with a shimmering robe and a knife that appeared out of nowhere. Carter shoots the bald man during the struggle and discovers that he had taken a blue glow pendant. Carter picks it up and says the things he overheard the other person say. Suddenly, he awakens in an unfamiliar wilderness. Carter tries to move but trips over his own feet and seems to float. He takes a while to figure out how to move around in this unfamiliar setting. He moves to the nearby hill and discovers a nest of eggs developing green six-limbed children. Although he is unaware of it, Mars has considerably lower gravity than Earth. He is going to depart, disturbed, when he sees a bunch of green monsters coming. When they spot Carter, they start firing until one of them orders the others to stop. They are mounted on powerful animals and have rifles. The four-armed, towering, green extraterrestrial salutes Carter and puts down his sword and rifle. Despite a linguistic barrier, the two are able to offer their names, much like the Apaches. The chief of his tribe, Tarkus, Willem Dafoe, is known as the Green Man. Carter is asked to leap again because Tarkus is aware that he is not a local. Carter seizes the opportunity to leap in the direction of Tarkus' weapons, but before he can fight, he is outmatched. Once more, Tarkus motions for the rest of his gang to keep Carter safe. They take Carter to their home in the ruins of an ancient city and gather the hatchlings, destroying the unhatched eggs. Carter is now scared and out of his element. He wants to return home and realizes that the medallion is probably the only option. Sadly, Tarkus has found the medallion and is sporting it. In the city, Carter is mistreated by other Tharks. They are unable to distinguish what kind of person he is, and because of his limited language skills, they perceive him as being similar to an animal or a baby. He is consequently placed among the infants. According to Thark tradition, the infants are thrown into the crowd, and whoever manages to grab one will be the hatchling's parent. The female Sola, Samantha Morton, whom the other Tharks appear to view with contempt, especially another female named Sarkoya, Polly Walker, receives Carter. She pours a drink into Carter's mouth after he has been cleansed and placed inside a pit to rest with the other infants. After that, he gains the ability to communicate in the native tongue. A conflict between humanoids is taking place in the distance. On airships, one side is blue and the other is red. They engage in combat. 3 bald men arrive on a crimson ship and approach General Sabvan, Dominic West. He is given a blue mesh gadget that allows him to fire energy bolts, but when he attempts to shoot the 3 figures, he is launched backwards. The 3 numbers chuckle. They are Therns, the goddess's emissaries, and she has decided to support Prince Sabvan of Zidanga in this battle. Matai Shang, the Thern leader, Mark Strong, motions for him to use his new holy abilities. The general takes the battle by firing energy bolts at the opposing ships. Dea Thoris, Lynn Collins, is practicing a speech in the royal palace of Helium. The Jeddak of Helium and her father Tardos Mors, Kieran Hines, enter bickering with a group of people. Dea exhibits a device that emits a feeble blue beam, which she refers to as the ninth beam and which she thinks is the source of their adversary Zodonga's newfound strength. One of the group, a disguised Thurn, stealthily zaps the device, rendering it useless as the entourage mulls over the alternatives. Tardos is aware that this ability might assist level the playing field, but they do not have time to continue their investigation into the enigmatic blue ray. Dea must wed Sab then to put an end to the battle, he informs her before dismissing the gathering. Dea is devastated because she understands that the wedding won't likely stop the Zodongan's growth and that after being hitched, she won't be able to carry on her studies. Woola, a large, wide-mouthed, low-to-the-ground creature that is incredibly swift and insists on following Carter like a dog no matter how high or how far he jumps, is now Carter's guardian back in Tharkville, where he lives. Carter is frustrated as he searches for Tars Tarkas to obtain the medallion, but Woola is able to catch up with him and create enough commotion to foil Carter's plans. Carter eventually crashes into a Thark party, where Woola loudly enters and interrupts the gathering. Woola and his owner Sola were beaten by the irate Tharks. Enraged, Carter leaps in to stop the beating, accidentally killing a Thark in the process and demonstrating his prowess at long jumps. Carter is viewed as a fresh weapon by the Tharks, who are upset at Sola for letting Carter get away. The Tharks brand her the following day in front of Carter, who watches in horror as they forewarn her that her next transgression would result in death because she has sinned so frequently that there is no more room on her skin for marks. When a sentry announces the presence of flying craft, the Tharks hide. 3 flying battleships with red, Zodonga, and blue, helium, flags suddenly materialize in the sky. For boarding parties and hand-to-hand combat, they close in. Carter is told that the Zodangans and Heliumites are at war by Tarkus while he observes via a telescope. Dea Thoris makes an attempt to flee the ship, trips, and hangs on for several hundred feet. Carter recognizes that she is human and rushes to her aid. He rescues the girl with his long-distance jumping skills and begins to defend her, but she counters by demonstrating her own fighting prowess. Carter succeeds in turning the battle's momentum, but the blue helium craft crashes. Following this performance, Tars Tarkas gave Carter his Dotar Soyot, or right arms, and Dea Thoris as a reward. Tal Hajus, a warrior with a broken tusk who competes with Tars Tarkas, Thomas Hayden Church, observes with enraged disgust. Carter declines the post because it makes him think of Powell, but Tarkas insists that if Carter declines, he won't be able to save Dea's life. Carter hesitantly accepts, and soon he is fending off questions about his talent from everyone. Dea wants to be able to jump as well as Carter, but she believes that since Carter has a different bone density than she is unlikely to be able to learn how to do so. Carter is forewarned against her by Tarkus, who is aware of her attempts to acquire a new weapon for helium. All Carter wants is to return home. He tries to describe his home to Dea, but she thinks he's either crazy or lying because he talks about a place that hasn't existed in this area for a very long time. She assumes he is a Thurn because of his serious demeanor, and their discussion of astronomy eventually leads to the discovery that Carter is from Earth, which she refers to as Jasum, but that he is currently on Mars, which she refers to as Barsoom. The Thurns will probably have the solution if there is a way to travel between the realms. Carter and Dea Thoris enter a cave that is purported to be a temple of the goddess and her adherents, the Thurns, despite Sola's attempts to dissuade them. The 3 are detained by the Tharks for entering the temple before Dea has a chance to study any ancient symbols. At tremendous personal risk, Tarkus aids in their escape, and Carter surmises that Sola is his child. Given that Tharks typically hatch their eggs alone and raise their young in secret, there had to have been significant criminal activity. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.